I just want to welcome everybody once again to our webinars. I mean, we do this every Sunday. For the times that we do it, and we're back tonight. And last week was it was a very, very fantastic one. These webinars are so important right now because I mean there are loads of all these going around because everyone is preparing for these elections, which yesterday they were exactly 2 weeks away yesterday. I mean, in 2 weeks' time, more or less we'll be electing the new president, as well as members of the National Assembly, the Senate and the House of Reps. And of course, the week after we'll be doing the states, the governorship, the State House of Assembly elections. And a lot of things have been going on in the polity, and there are loads of questions that people are asking. Last week, we had these wonderful guests with us, and because of that, we had quite a lot of feedback from the feeds on social media. We had quite a few phone calls, and for me, and I'm not saying this because you're on this call, Mrs. Well, don't let me mention the name yet. To our guest, the surprising thing, if you can call it surprising, was that there were actually 90% of those who got back to us were like, you know what, someone needs to tell them the truth. Someone needs to say these things. And there were things like, I agree with that in total and all things. And my question was like, okay, why are people having to wait for these quote unquote very courageous people to put their voices out there before everybody says, I agree? Why not go out there and just put these things out there? Because the conversation is so deep. And of course, during the week, I would say we were entertained. And even though it is not funny at all, when we had Peter Okoye of the P Square Group and Sheung Anikulapo Kuti, son of former late fella, sparring on these matters of the election. And people have raised things. People have raised questions like, this guy was actually not really too bothered about either Peter Obi or Atiku or Tinubu or Kwankwaso. He's always said he's a showroom and all things. Why attacking in this manner? Why go this far with him and all things? And of course, questions were asked about the tolerance, the level of tolerance of certain people. And is it that, if I support, I'm a friend. If I don't support, I'm an enemy to be attacked and everything. And of course, at that rally, there was a rally yesterday, the LP rally in Lagos State yesterday, which was supposed to be the mother of all rallies. With quite a lot of the youth and the Igbo community, not just the Igbo community alone, but just emphasizing that the youth, quite a lot of them turned out. And we had loads of videos of those attacks against supporters of the candidate, against Peter Obi's candidates. All those things were in the media. These are questions, is the level of intolerance. Of course, there were those who also argue that, you know what, a lot of these things, they were RNG and all this, but, do people arrange to put their own lives in danger? These are valid questions. And of course, there were those from the Tinubu camp, the APC camp, who said, well, when Tinubu came to Lagos first, after announcing he was going to be contesting these elections, that he was attacked, his entourage was brutally attacked as well. And, and of course, one very interesting thing from that event yesterday was when Aisha Yesufu, the social critic, actually led a 1 minute of silence to honor those loads of people, quote unquote, who lost their lives in the NSAS movement at the Lekki toll gate. I think the emphasis was on the Lekki toll gate. But of course, there have been those who argue that Aisha Yesufu is the precursor for all those things, and that without her, a lot of people will still be alive, that she was the one who instigated the NSAS riots. And there are those who still argue for and against the Lekki toll gate thing, that there was a massacre, there wasn't a massacre. But yesterday she was in tears, leading that minute of silence. But of course, people just did not die at the toll gate. There were loads of policemen, soldiers that lost their lives across the country. There were families of people in the force that lost their lives as well. I mean, we know of that case of that boy in Oshodi that was dragged out of his house because he was just the son. The only offense he committed was because he was the son of a policeman and all those things, But of course, there are those who have said they lost their loved ones through quote and unquote the brutality of the military and the security agencies. So, I mean, as the elections approach, and of course, that's not losing sight of our topic. It's just to give a background and the things that have happened since the last time we had that conversation that have made it even more interesting right now. And so, without much ado, I just reintroduce the topic more or less because we're continuing from where we left off last week, which is rediscovering the greatness of Nigeria. The 2023 elections as a pathway. Once again, rediscovering the greatness of Nigeria. The 2023 elections as a pathway. And today, it is just simply continue the part 2 today. And once again, it is my pleasure to introduce our special guest. Of course, we're going to be having 2 guests, but we're going to be having one at the beginning. This woman says it as it is. People like that are very, very, very few and very, very, in today's world, they're just not the kind of things that you see all the time, there's something on that that says Madam President Ariola Ifoma Iyabo Awokoya. Of course, we won't go into the Ifoma beat again because last week she did tell us how she came about that name. She is a lawyer. She describes herself as a lawyer, a development and management consultant. She's a serial author. She's a serial author, like I said. She's passionate about training and capacity. She's a blogger. She's a mediator, a counselor, part-time urban farmer. In fact, that's the first time I'm seeing that anywhere. Part-time urban farmer. That means maybe she has a bit of things in her garden, and that she, just as an enthusiast, and she's a music enthusiast anyway. So, ladies and gentlemen, once again, it is my pleasure to welcome Barrister Mrs. Iyabo Ariola Ifoma Awokoya to tonight's webinar. You're welcome, and thank you so much for last week, ma'am.
Thank you today. Thank you, PLIDE, for inviting me. And thank you for all that glorious introduction. Do you want me to say 1 or 2 things before you go to questions?
I almost
Today, this is one of the problems that I have with Nigeria and Nigerians. The fact that I'm a lawyer, I understand positions of law. So when you, in your lovely introduction and background setting, when you said that Aisha Yusufu, or Aisha, whatever her name is, when you said that Aisha was crying and observing 1 minute silence, I find that I can't just tolerate theatrics, because as far as I'm concerned, we're not in a theater. We're not acting a film or a drama. The Lagos state government set up a panel, a judicial panel of inquiry, to look at the question of Lekki toll gate and other people that had died in the hands of police prior to EndSARS. There were 2 things. Prior to EndSARS, all that had suffered under the police brutality were invited to come to the panel, because that was what the federal government asked all the states to inquire after. Then Lagos State, because of the incident that happened at Lekki, which was the shooting up in the air to disperse the crowd after a curfew had been set. After that, people said they died and there was a massacre. And the Lagos state government said, let us have an inquiry specifically on that point. They also put 2 youth. One of them was the Reno, the girl who has become notorious for activism, for the sake of activism. Because quite frankly, I'm still trying to get what her own ideology, what she's actually after. I'm still trying to, because when Ganifa Wemi was an activist, when Dr. Beko Ransom Kuti was an activist. When Professor Olikoye Ransom Kuti was an activist, we all knew what they were fighting, not to talk of Fela. So if I know what people like Macaroni and what's this girl's name again, Rinu and the rest of them, when I know what they are fighting for, I would be able to put them into some class or some position and call them activists for a particular purpose. Right now, to me, they are rebels without a cause. So when a judicial panel is set up and the judicial panel goes through all the drama of asking people to come, testify, bring your loved ones, tell us, and we have nobody confirmed dead at Lekki toll gate. And a judicial panel, after they had all the people that were there, wrote a report. And the Lagos state government immediately looked at the report, and we saw that the names of most of the names of the dead people they claimed were dead from Lekki were actually not dead from Lekki. And the government has now released a white paper. That is the end of it. That white paper is law. It has a force of law. So for us to still be insisting that people are dead is a travesty of law. So when you are saying it, Tunde, you should be introducing things contextually and legally to say that people were alleged to have died, no proven one occurred. And there's a white paper, because you will be on the law, right on the law. When you say the white paper is there, has anybody challenged the white paper? All those who said they died, or their children died, or their family, have they even challenged the white paper by going to court? So you have people who at the beginning were offered an opportunity to bring in their evidence, and they didn't. There's a white paper that dismisses all their claims of having lost loved ones. And then that white paper has been published and they have not sued. So why will we let these young children who do not know the law take us round by the string, put a noose around our heads, adults, grown-ups, governor, everybody, some young people who call themselves activists, we put a noose around us and be leading us astray. And then we continue to reinforce a lie. These are the things I just don't understand. So it's not a matter of somebody having courage to talk. It's a matter of, are we all normal? Or have we all drunk into a system of, they are going to bully me, let me run away? Are we all having all sorts of skeletons in our cupboards that we're afraid these children are going to reveal? Why are we afraid of saying, these are children? My child is not going to say a lot of this rubbish to me, and I won't be able to smack her down immediately by telling her, go and research. Tell me, whenever it is you want to talk to me, you come with your facts. That's why we spend so much money in training you. Not that you are going to be empty and acting like a numbskull person. So if you continue to reinforce these things, these lies that they keep on telling, for which they nearly burnt a whole country down. If these children had been asked to account and take responsibility, look at the girl who started the whole thing, who recorded a video. She had at no time did she come before the panel. That's the DJ switch or DJ watch or whatever they call her. She never came before the panel. In law, anybody who has said something must come and prove it. That video she claimed to have recorded should have been submitted before the panel by her, because then we will have to question her. Where were you standing? How did you record it? How were you carrying the dead bodies, carrying them to the police with all the drama of shooting and shooting and shooting? How did you do it? Witnesses would always be, that is what we have in our judicial system. That's why we call it a judicial system, in the sense that people ask questions, they cross-examine them, they re-examine them, and we test the veracity of everything they had said. So these children cannot continue to play us as fools. What is wrong with us that we have some common sense and we read law? Why is it that we are letting young children bully us? No, so on that one, I will insist that you stop saying that people died. People did not die. That is the evidence and the law that we have. Nobody died at Lekki. People died all over. Policemen died. Some people died in car accidents. Some were shot, but they didn't die in Lekki. The pathologist that was asked to bring all the dead people testified specifically and said they were not from Lekki. All the people who claimed it was their body of their family, why were they not there? So please don't let us continue this playing into the hands of children. You know, I will say that, and if you prompt me on something else, I'll probably respond. But right now, I just had to say that on the Lekki thing because I'm getting sick and tired of it. We cannot continue to reinforce an untruth and hope that it will stay and it will become a truth. You know, I still feel very bad that those children were not called to account. If one or two of them had been sued, look at Rinu. Rinu walked out of the panel when she saw that she wasn't going to be able to bully the panel into anything. That's why she left. You know, if I were the panel, I wouldn't have allowed her to even leave.
But ma, I don't. So sorry to be interrupting you because you said the children. But your colleague, Barrister Ebon, Adegorua, he was part and parcel of all this. He also you would say he came out with what you can call a minority. I mean, if he was a tribunal, you say a minority, a panel, you say a judicial panel. Well, that was a judicial panel anyway. What you call a minority judgment, quote and unquote, a minority opinion. You know, so he seemed aligned with Reno. You know, they were in some sort of alliance, so to say. Well, as far as those things were concerned. So your Barrister Adegoru Hassan also he said the same thing as well. That there were massacres and that the tribunal just did not listen to them or something.
I know he didn't say the tribunal. He was the one who the tribunal authored their first report now, which was discredited. So he didn't say that. He tried to claim that there was a massacre. I don't want to talk about a colleague. I am much, much senior. I left law, like I said. I left the practice of law ages ago. Adegorua is a junior, very far removed from me. So I'm not going to talk about him. As far as I'm concerned, I could call him children as well, because I know how old I am at the back. So all of them to me were just a pantomime group. The Lagos State governor was so naive. Sometimes he reminds me of Buhari at times. He was so naive in thinking that if he put activists, they will be willing to actually look for the truth. Some of us at the beginning when that panel was constituted, we were screaming, you cannot put your enemies, you cannot put those who stand against you alone in this panel. That panel was tilted so much to the people who were saying there was a massacre, who were shouting there was a massacre at the beginning. But like I said, a lovely gentleman, a bit naive, thinking that, oh, definitely they would want to go to the truth. You know, a lot of people have this aura of believing so-called activists. You know, they believe whenever you put your, and I keep trying to find out where do they go to school of activism? Because most of the time to me, it's more of nuisance. You know, when Gani Fawemi was doing his activism, he used the law. That's exactly what happened when one of the boys abused me on Twitter and I had to take him to the police to get, I wanted to actually take him under the real law of cyberbullying. But when I got to the place, I asked the boy and I said, his lawyer came and his lawyer was one of the younger ones that was on the panel. And they were so surprised that they thought this Mr. Awokoya would be some very, very heavy madam that will almost kill them with her weight or something. And they saw that I'm not that kind of person, just a normal, regular person. So I asked the fellow, I said, are you not a lawyer? If you have a problem with an issue, why don't you go to court? That is what Gani Fawemi did in all his activism. He challenged every government that he was after with the law. Not only will he challenge it, he will go through the law and pick what they were doing wrong. Why is it that activism now means fight, 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 make noise, abuse, bully, I'm going on strike, I'm destroying something? Where is the activism? Where will that lead them to? When activism is supposed to be for you to change a particular thing. So where will you be able to change it if you don't use the law? So I don't understand what is happening and what they call activism nowadays. Because our courts, Serap will say, we are going to sue Buhari. We are going to sue Buhari. We are going to sue Buhari. In the long run, they don't sue Buhari. When they sue Buhari, it's for something that they themselves, having two sons in the place, should know they don't have local standing. So quite frankly, there is a lot that has gone. Some of us don't even recognize the legal profession and the country that we used to know. We don't recognize it anymore. So I don't know what to say. I'll just say that I'm not the only one who understands all these things, but I happen to have grown up in a deep, deep, deep family of many lawyers, from ordinary to judges to everywhere. And I practiced law also at a time. So I don't know what is happening, but nobody died at Lekki. There's a white paper to that. Anybody who says anything should take the government to court on the white paper and go and prove that somebody, their loved one, died. People died everywhere else, but they didn't die at Lekki. So I'm not going to be reinforcing it by allowing that light to go.
Okay, thank you so much, ma, for saying that. That's very, very instructive, and I mean, you've actually educated me on that when it comes to things like that. Obviously, there's no way one can I can possibly know as much as when it comes to these things, these matters of law. Having said that, there's a question that people have raised that Mrs. Aisha Yesufu had that 1 minute of silence for, like you said, I must say, alleged massacre at the Lekki toll gate. But people have alleged that during the tenure of Peter Obi as governor of Anambra State, that Okuzu SARS was actually the most brutal in the country, or one of the most brutal. And that same SARS was responsible for the deaths of the killings of so many people. Do you share that perspective, and do you have any information on this?
Well, you see, it's not a perspective. It is actually true that there was indeed a massacre then in Anambra State. Everybody saw the floating bodies of dead people and the rest in the river and the rest of it, and there was supposed to be a panel. What you need to ask, because that's another thing that is happening. From the Southeast, there's a lot of what I call undue drama. The Southeasterners are interested in everything else in Nigeria, but they don't want anybody to be interested in their own region. I'm not talking about everybody. I'm talking about some people. Peter Obi himself is not helping matters. When you are alleging, because I listened to him on Nigerian Economic Summit Group when he was talking with them at the presidential parley that they had with all the contenders, and he was just talking about insecurity in the north, insecurity in the north. I mean, there is insecurity in the southeast. We all know that. IPOP has given us so much headache. People are being killed by ordinary Southeasterners people. They have a problem with drugs. We all know that. There's Impiku or whatever it is they call that thing that is raging there. Everybody knows it. But a presidential candidate is burying his head under the sand and pretending like, oh, the insecurity we have to address is the insecurity of the north. And the insecurity of the north is regularly being addressed daily. We have all the armaments that have been bought. It's for that area. We have all our fighter jets. It is every day we see that there is a battle. The kidnapping, even the question of the change of money is part of things to address kidnapping and everything. Give a shock treatment to most of these things, So when all these things come there, Akwozu, the massacre there was real. But I don't have a problem with Peter Obi. He was governor at that time, but nothing was done. It isn't his job to actually investigate. He's just supposed to refer the matter to the police, and the police is the one that is supposed to investigate. And we know that our police did not investigate a lot of massacre by their own people. That's why everybody has been complaining about police, and SARS happened. Now, where I have the problem is that SARS was supposed to set up panels in all the states. Now, have you heard any report from the Anambra State SARS panel? The judicial panel in Anambra didn't sit or did not come to any conclusion. Otherwise, definitely the massacre at the time of Obi would have been a hot topic that would have been going on in the press. We didn't see that. The question that I will now ask all the people that are after Peter Obi or supporting him should be, are these questions not things we should ask about him? What are his views concerning SARS? What happened during his time? Because surely what is sauce for the goose is sauce for the gander. The governor in Lagos State almost became a thin man, as thin as a rake during that SARS, with the way all these people were bullying him, you know, children abusing him. Sorosoke Were. That's how the Sorosoke came up. Imagine children talking to their governor without respect and say Sorosoke Were. A lot of things happened that time that I'm so sad about. But what is sauce for the goose should be sauce for the gander. Peter Obi should have been called before the panel to give an explanation as to what steps he took during that time and what happened. Why is that panel? Why has that panel not in any way compensated anybody like the Lagos State that has been done? So there are quite a lot of issues concerning the time of Peter Obi, which he ought to have answered for. But in the typical way of the young ones nowadays, it is all about shouting, no substance. Shout, 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 and think that if my voice is loudest, people are going to just keep quiet. So it's a bully tactic, and some of us just don't fall under any bully tactics. We just won't stand. So we will always continue to say, go back and solve a lot of the problems you keep thinking Lagos is giving you or Southwest is giving you. Go and solve it in your state as well, so that we are on the same footing. Okay, I hope that answers you as to what I think. Then you talked about Aisha. Yes, and you said something about Aisha believing, I don't know, I'm not sure I remember. But I just want to tell you one thing. My view on Aisha is this. She's a rabble-rouser. She is not a very, very intelligent rabble-rouser, unfortunately. And most rabble-rousers are not always intelligent, because if you are very intelligent, you will pitch what it is you are fighting. I mean, I don't understand how somebody dances now and just says, we won't agree. Buhari, you are mad. Buhari, we will not agree. Oh, what is all that? You know, Buhari, you are not green. You have not sued Buhari for anything you claim he did wrong. You are just shouting, we will not agree. Are you going to go and meet him in his Aso Rock and drag him down by the shirt and say, we are not going to agree? So I don't have time for all those theatrics. Most of them will do very well if they were acting skits. Thank you.
Thank you so much. And of course, there was something you did say, and for me, I wasn't even aware of it. And I'm someone who tries my best to keep a tab on, you know, especially some of you that we really consider very, you know, people very never afraid to air your views, and we bring to these webinars. We try to every now and then to follow you as well. And I was never aware that you actually reported someone and it became a police thing and the person was arrested by the police and everything. Because during the week as well, just a few days ago, the skit maker, popularly known as Macaroni, actually sued someone else on Twitter for alleging that he had taken some money. He had taken a lot of money to declare where stands in terms of the upcoming forthcoming 2023 elections. And of course, Femi Falana Chambers, I saw the papers yesterday. It was served, and of course, there was quite a lot on. So that means, and people were like, I mean, my own thoughts were like, this man is going down. I mean, he has every right to sue someone whoever has taken such actions against him, because one of the problems with Nigerian social media, and I always say, there are no repercussions. Someone can just wake up and decide that I'm going to plant there that a certain Mr. Nicodemus is actually a rapist. And without evidence, without anything that supports it, but you just write it. And because there are no consequences, and then you have the PRO of the police force, the many PROs, they'll be there even cracking jokes saying, this person, your head is not correct. And I'm just like, there's so much senselessness around the place. Because even the police, it does appear that it's the main thing is for them to also be participating, being seen to be on social media, being reachable on social media, rather than even using it as a place to actually collect intelligence, to actually give an air of authority in the land. I mean, of lawfulness, and so. I mean,
yeah, but okay, I can talk on that.
Okay, let me let you go on. Let me let you answer. Let me let you.
There's a lot that is that you have actually. There's a lot to unpack from all the things you just said right now, and let me just explain two different things. Yes, in trying to get a sort of remedy for anybody who does something on social media against you, there are two ways to go by it. You can either go through the normal civil suit of suing for libel, which is probably what Macaroni is trying to do. When you go through that route, Americans call it route. I was brought up British, so route is what I learned. When you go through that route, what happens is this. You are saying that you have a reputation to protect. Your reputation has been maligned. I hope you are still with me.
Yes, I'm here.
Okay.
I'm here.
All right, good. Okay, so you are saying, I've got this reputation that somebody has attempted to, or somebody has maligned. Therefore, give me damages for that. So the first thing is that you have a reputation, right? And that reputation has been maligned. Now, when somebody maligns that reputation, there are certain things we always want to find out in the law of libel. Is it the way the person talks to you? Is it something that the ordinary person in the street will agree that it has brought you into ridicule or disrepute, or has making your reputation to be far below? If I were defending the person who allegedly libeled Macaroni, I'll have a lot to defend. In fact, when I was practicing law, that was our forte. Libel. We represented a lot of newspapers. My husband still does. So I will first of all go through Macaroni's, all the things he has been doing, the way he has been abusing other people. I will download everything and say, do you actually have a reputation to protect in the first instance? So I'll probably be able to try justification, because we have defenses to libel. One of them is justification that what I published about you is true. That's why they're asking him for evidence. The second one that they don't know about is qualified privilege. If what you have said is something that is not totally correct, but not totally wrong, in a matter in which the public have an interest to know, and you are like a social commentator, you might come under qualified privilege. And of course, absolute privilege. Then there's what we call fair comment. If we run through all the things that led to the conversation, and you actually see that this person's comment is not even so bad compared to some other ones, or it's something that could actually sound plausible given the circumstances, fair comment will come into all those. Look, in the case of Wole Soyinka and Okunu, Professor Wole Soyinka abused Okunu in his book, The Man Died. This was a publication. He called him a monkey marionette, a puppet. You know, there were so many things. And when we went to court, in that time I was in Ghanese chambers, we were the ones defending Wole Soyinka against Okunu. The court said that Wole Soyinka had libeled Okunu. But guess what? The court awarded damages of just about 1,000 naira, wow, which shows that the court did not feel that Wole Soyinka really did anything that was so grievous. So it depends on the lawyer that defends the person that Macaroni said libeled him, because there will be other things that Macaroni himself has done to people that is not even 1/10 near what this fellow has done. That's my point on that. He went on that side of libel. In my own case, I was not doing libel. I went on a crime of cyber stalking under the Cyber Stalking Law Act. What my own situation was, I had never engaged with this fellow ever. I didn't know him. I wasn't following him. We had nothing. From nowhere, he decided to abuse me. Just like that. From nowhere. No interaction, nothing. And not only did he abuse me, because he had up to 1 million or so followers, he set his 1 million followers after me. So they were all bullying and cyber stalking me, up to a point where I couldn't, people were going to follow me simply to come and abuse me. So I got somebody to download almost about 50-something pages of abuse to show the Twitter analytics. I did the analytics of the reach, and I wrote a petition to the Commissioner of Police. And I advert, this person set out to bully me for no reason. So mine was different. And the law is that when you do that, you either go, I think it's either 7 million naira or 3 million naira and 7 years jail or something, or both. So at the stage when we were at the police station after petition, when he was brought in and everything, and as a mother and as a woman, seeing that this guy, because the police told me that once they charge, it will have to be caught and you can't draw back easily. And I looked at him and I saw a young fellow, and I didn't want him to have that kind of problem, because don't try Mrs. Awokoya. I can guarantee you that I would have been in court every day, even if the case took 10 years. Once I'm triggered, I'm triggered. I will see it to the end. But luckily, wisdom prevailed on him. He apologized. His young lawyer apologized. One other lawyer who was going to throw him into jail, who was being erratic and mad, luckily, he too met his Waterloo somewhere else, and he was jailed for contempt of court. So luckily, this boy himself was able to draw back when that other lawyer was going to get him into more trouble, to say, Madam, please don't do that. And I took somebody who is also on Twitter along with me, with my husband, a lawyer, so that somebody will witness everything that happened, because knowing these children, you don't know what they will say. So I made sure that I had all that covered. So cyberbullying is there. But to talk about the social media and people just saying whatever it is, the National Assembly that we have shied away from regulating the social media, because, of course, all of them are using social media. All of them have their own people who push their things. So they didn't do what they're supposed to do, because the social media bill that was actually proposed, and I went to have a discussion at this Enough is Enough, EIE, when they had this bill on social media. I was called because I was advocating that there should be regulation. So they called me and I went there and I educated a lot of the children there that, look, what social media bill is that if you make a mistake, you are given an opportunity to immediately retract it and say sorry. Then that doesn't go further. But if you don't retract it, then you have to face the law. So there was nothing, to me, there was a lot of inelegant drafting in the bill, but it's still a bill. It's not actually yet a law. By the time the people polish it up, it would have come out fine. But the National Assembly didn't have the courage. The CSOs and NGOs were up in arms. And that is another problem, because I asked them at that meeting, I said, who is advocating on the side of Nigeria, the country Nigeria? Why are you all advocating against Nigeria? Why must it always be against government? Government is fluid. Government goes and comes. Why is it that it is always government is after us? Government is after us. Why don't we focus on how our nation? I asked them, I said, who is telling the citizens their own responsibility in this governance? Government is a two-way thing. Somebody is governing, we are being governed. So definitely we have our own responsibilities. They have their own duties to us. You know, so those are the kind of issues. When government wants to propose something, instead of us rationally considering it, we go into this emotional tirade. And then everybody finds it easy to just abuse government. Meanwhile, we are all part of this so-called government, because they put another Nigerian. Look at what has happened. A policy on change of Naira. It has made new millionaires. Every policy in Nigeria makes new rich people. The POS people are suddenly the millionaires now. Petrol scarcity. The petrol attendants become the millionaires, and the petrol people become, all of them cheating the Nigerians. And what do? The banks, I am so sure a lot of the bank workers are the ones running POS now. You know, and what do we do? Instead of us to actually look at the issues and begin to fight against the principalities that are behind all these things, we focus on Buhari. The man will soon leave and go and have his peace. And that's, if he's the one that God chooses, is my choice. If God chooses him, then he will be there to continue with Nigerian Wahala. I'll stop there.
Now, you said people keep mentioning Buhari, but is it not the head? Is it not, does the buck not stop?
You know, I told you this last week, that I haven't got a problem. I told you this last week. I don't have a problem with Buhari. I really don't, because I keep saying it. Aso Rock does not impact my life. Aso Rock does not impact the life of the ordinary people. So our focus on Aso Rock is misplaced. The people who impact my life significantly are my state governor and the local government that I belong to. They are the ones who impact my life. Their laws affect me. Buhari's laws do not really now affect my everyday life. So when Buhari is our focus, we have missed it, because we're giving the governors a pass. We are supposed to be asking why our roads are not done. We don't even know who our local government chairman is to harass, because most of the internal roads are local government roads, but nobody knows how to harass them. Markets, when I want to park in my husband's office now on the main road, what do they say? They say they should not park in front of their offices anymore. Or if they want to park, they have to come and take a license from the local government. Now, I would want to take the local government to court, because I know it is their duty to provide car parks. So if they fail to provide car parks, and they are now accusing me that I should not park in front of my car, of my flat or my house, then something has to give. Now, that law is impacting me. Buhari is not the one who's going to come and tell me not to park. It doesn't impact my life. But local governments are not producing or providing car parks because the state government takes their money. So since the state government takes their money and we don't know what they get, we can't really interrogate that. So all the things that affect me in my day-to-day living, there are no school buses for my children. Local government should be the ones providing all those things, because primary education is local government job. You know, markets belong to local government. But if the state government is controlling markets one way or the other, then I might find out that I am impacted. Buhari does not control my market. The areas where Buhari can impact me is this kind of policy from the central bank. But somebody like me, I never ever look at a policy and just get upset. I always try to see what informed the policy. Okay, the policy is good, but we have a problem with implementation. And the implementation has come, it has shown us that there is a problem in planning. Because I'm a development consultant, I know that planning is the most important aspect. If you plan very well, you are likely to succeed. If you fail to plan well, you are planning to fail, which is what has happened with this policy. But again, the Nigerians need to take part of the blame. Nobody, CBN did not tell anybody to go and exchange their money. We are the ones who created that in our typical way. CBN said, go and deposit your money into the bank so that if you have brought your money into the system, you can now be using other sources of payment.
Okay, can I?
Hold on a second. Let me quickly finish that. You can now use other sources. Your cash needs will not be so much. The whole policy was to reduce the cash in the system. So obviously they goofed in not knowing that the bad cash they are trying to trap perhaps is still out there and people are afraid to bring it in because the CBN is saying, I haven't recovered the quantity of that bad cash that I want to come in. I've not recovered it. I still want people to bring it in. But it is the policy is already affecting the poor people on the street. So CBN needs more volume of cash than it anticipated. But knowing the Nigerian crooks, they would not want EFCC on their tail. So they've been looking for people who are going to help them drop that money. And they have helped them drop some of the money, but they can't take it out. Are you getting the point? If you have given different people your money to help you drop in, to legitimize it, like if I've used a BDC or somebody who funds, who carries a lot of funds to help me try and launder my money and make it clean. CBN now has restricted cash withdrawal. So those people can't get their money. So that's why you have a lot, not just the poor people. The big people are making noise because they are really, really affected by this. I mean, if it had not been election time, I would have been having fun and say, ride on CBN, ride on CBN. But as it is election time, it's affecting a lot of things, a lot of logistics. And it's not about buying votes alone. It's about moving people around. During the election, paying your election officers are doing sort things. So probably that is one of the reasons why it's a bit of a problem. Okay, you can go.
Okay, I'll come to my question, but I'll let PLIDE Shalafayemi, he wants to, I believe he has a question he wants to ask. Shalafayemi, could you step in? Could you just ask a question and then I'll take it over from there.
Yes, thank you so much, Mr. Convener. I want to sincerely appreciate Mrs. Awokoya, for the expository analysis and the judgment has been able to put some of these issues. I clearly agree with that. We always have misplaced priorities regarding how people, project their grievances. Some things are actually meant to be met by governors and the leaders in the local government and all of that. And unfortunately, like she also said, there are many of the citizens who don't even know the name of their local government chairman, who don't know the honorable members representing their constituency in the House of Assemblies. Yeah. But nevertheless, I was just I put a comment across now. I said, well, there are key policies, because the Constitution is so good that it has demarcated and outlined the different responsibility and function of either the state government, the federal government, and the local government. But each other as we have currently, I was just trying to say that in this current imbroglio and the problem that is confronting the nation, one, the Naira redesigning, and two, the major thing I just want to talk about, the two is the fuel scarcity. One, when we go to the Naira redesigning, like I was typing, I said, well, for me, it's a good policy if you're thinking we want to reduce the amount of cash in circulation, we want to, let our economy be, cashless driven economy so as to improve how people do transactions and to also see that we are competing favorably with what is obtainable in the Western world in our society. But again, I wanted to ask that, do we have enough IT infrastructure to drive this? If all of us are very observant and obvious of this, in the last couple of weeks, since we started this Naira redesigning and crisis, IT transferring from one bank to another has been frequent. People now have delayed in their transfer eating another bank. And the reason for this is not far-fetched. Our IT infrastructure is not empowered enough. It's not sound enough, to take care of the number of people we are migrating, to mobile banking transfer and all of that. So because we're having issues, fine, we know. if also we are saying the CBN want to reduce the amount of cash in circulation, in the last 2 months, over 2 months, that CBN has embarked on this currency, the designing and the cash swap and all of that, CBN claimed they've mopped up over 2 trillion naira from circulation. And when we asked the Mr. President, the CBN governor, how much it has been reintroduced, he said a paltry sum of 300 million naira has been reintroduced back into circulation. When, the amount of money withdrawn, even the amount of money supply is not up to 50% of the amount of money withdrawn from the circulation. Fine, you are driving, you want to reduce the cash in circulation, but automatically there's going to be scarcity. And another thing, why the president cannot be exonerated completely, when this issue, it is quite just unfortunate that we have a president that is not proactive. Our president waits until when issues get out of.
Okay, I think somehow he got disconnected, but he's made quite a lot of his points, Mrs. Awokoya. So hopefully when he comes back, anyway, where he stopped. So can I?
Yeah, he said something like the president cannot be exonerated. I wouldn't even exonerate the president because, in fairness, the CBN is actually supposed to be independent. Buhari ought not to be at the forefront of CBN policies. So that is an overreaching on his side. And at the beginning, a lot of the economists, and that is almost like 7 years ago, 8 years ago, when he started the question of Naira, they should remove 42 and MFLA would go to him to talk to him. People were saying, this is not right. The CBN should be on his own. So if he agreed so totally with the policy that the CBN wanted to do, then he should take the blame or part of the blame, definitely, for a policy gone wrong. So I'm not exonerating Buhari at all, But what I would like to comment on the other aspect of his statement, which is that they return back the system. You see, it's another thing that I don't do. I am not privy to the information that CBN has. And I'm also not privy to economic knowledge to that extent. So I won't be able to say that introducing 50% of the money.
It's 7 o'clock. Is
what the optimum thing they ought to have done. That's a layman's way of looking at things. Because for the CBN, they know good money, they know bad money. Some of our monies, like I said last week or sometime, has gone up to Ouagadougou, to all these places and the rest of it, Cotonou, Cameroon, all these things, Niger Republic. A lot of this Boko Haram and the rest is our money that is funding all these things. So maybe some bad money is what they are after, and what they have gotten back, they know which one is opaque, which one is bad. So I cannot judge them on what they reintroduced. Then on the question of our IT, this is where we have to look at what caused it. Everybody suddenly migrated. Since there was no cash, people started migrating to those platforms CBN asked us to migrate. But these are the bank platform, NIPSS. Their switch and everything is run by all the banks. It has nothing to do with government. I know that there was a time when Paystack, or I don't know, Flutterwave or Paystack, one of them was also, I think it was one of these payment systems. It's not either one, it's not Paystack or Flutterwave. It's a heavier one that was was also providing
a remitter or e-transact or something? Was it?
No. I will remember before.
Maybe NIBS then. Okay, go on.
No. I'll remember. There was another private owned by an individual that had a payment platform before. NIBS now decided that they were coming on board and taking it over. And their justification then was that it was too risky to have the banking apparatus and machine and backbone in the hands of a private person. Fine. So the banks are the ones who organize their own payment platform. Has nothing to do with government. So when they are unable to cope, it is their architecture that failed them. And that's what it happened that we witnessed. Now, another thing is this. All the banks belong to the Bankers Committee, which is chaired by the CBN. All the banks. CBN doesn't do anything without all the banks knowing and being in awareness. And the banks came up with one funny statement and said that we all know we have spent so much money upgrading our systems because we anticipate there'll be a rush. But obviously, nobody is talking about the banks. Nobody is actually looking at the banks and saying, all you CBN, all you bank governors and bank executives, with all the money you are making and all these things, why is it that we are the ones suffering on these things? Why are you not putting your own architecture into place? After all, you are the ones. It doesn't matter to a bank. Cashless works better for the bank. They make more money. You know, they make more money with doing no more. They will replace a lot of workers now because everything will be automated. So why is it that they can't spend that money? And then you find out that a lot of their IT people are off. And I keep saying, if a lot of your IT people have jackpot and a lot of people have no work, why have the banks not been proactive to start training more IT people? And young people are screaming they have no work. So it's always a chicken and an egg argument with us. Which one came first, the chicken or the egg? It always goes round and round and round, you know?
Thank you so much, man. Shola Fayemi is back. PLIDE Fayemi is back. So I'll let him continue and conclude on his line of questioning. On his questions, not line of questioning. So Shola Fayemi, you can take the floor again. You may take the floor.
Thank you very much, Mr. Convener. My sincere apologies. I was off the network and I didn't even know I was not heard. Like I was saying, I don't know the point at which you heard me.
We heard you to the point where you were like, Buhari could not be exonerated, you know, so I think we
Yes. I talk, first of all, about this Naira redesigning. You know, fine, I heard what Mr. Awokoya said regarding the banks strengthening their IT infrastructure. But other than like this situation, there must be an agreement between CBN, who is the regulator of the banks, and the bank before a policy, you know, could see, you know, a policy is not a successful one when all the parties or that are supposed to make their responsibility or to make things work are failing in discharging their. So in this case, you know, if we are also looking as a nation, we have a nation in which we have over 30 million unbanked generations, 30 million unbanked people. We have people in the villages where they don't have access to the banks. I remember at a time, the CBN said, okay, fine. In the last 2 weeks, and particularly on the 23rd of January, that banks should ensure that we have what we call cash swap, giving money to the agent so as to reach the places where people ordinarily cannot reach. But the question I was asking is this. I said, now CBN mopped over 2 trillion from circulation. They are saying they want to reduce the amount of cash in circulation, which is a good policy on the long run. But how come are we saying that a battery of 300 million was only reduced into circulation? And when CBN was recently confronted, CBN came up with a lie. The governor said, oh, we've given banks enough money. It is your banks that is holding this money. It is many of them that are not releasing this money out to the general public. I can ask them a simple question. I said, in Ogun State, where I operate as a banker, CBN was in my bank on the 24th of January. They came into my vault. They supplied me a very huge amount of money before that time. They did not see one error in my vault. And there was no way CBN make credence to that, oh, we've citizens so and so banks in Ogun State. Unfortunately, all of them dispensed their money. But, you know, they were sending propagandas and lies to the public. Where they now go to one bank, they see 26 million. You know, they went to Sterling Bank in Ekiti. They saw 6 million and they projected as if, oh, if that 6 million, fine, it's a bad one for that matter because they expected to have loaded the money to the ATM. But they made it look like, oh, if this 6 million has been introduced into circulation in Ekiti, that means all the Ekiti people's problem would have been solved. How can we equate 300 million naira to 2 trillion that have been mopped off from circulation? And again, I was talking about, I said it appears that our president is disconnected with the happenings in the country. One, you know, we had this issue of the problem and the crisis of the aftermath of the Naira design over a period of time. It was in the last 10 days that our president lent his voice to the yearnings of the nation, saying, oh, Nigerians, give me additional 1 week, I will make my position known on this Naira designing issue. The 1 week was last week Friday. The only thing we had was a Council of State meeting where they also pitched their intent with the policy of the government. Now, Mr. President is set to speak to us a responsible father who does not have a constant engagement with his children. I doubt that kind of responsibility. Because what we call responsibility, what we call a father, when you say you are responsible, a responsible person is your response, and now where you respond to issues that makes you a responsible person. And for example, over time now, the president is there to make a point to address the citizens or the crisis that is confronting us. And again, when they add the CBN, you need to make enough funds into circulation. We are saying we want to reduce the money. Let's even say we are mopping up half of 2 trillion from this circulation. Invariably, constructively, and logically, 1 trillion is expected to have been reduced, to have been reintroduced into circulation. And one of the excuses of the CBN, they said, we don't have enough capacity to print. The printing firm that
that has been refuted. That has been refuted in a statement by CBN, in a published statement, that the CBN never said that. Okay. They never said that they don't have capacity. They have published that retraction, published it, it's all over. But we are still insisting they said it. Okay. You see, these are some of the problems that I have with a rumor goes out. The premium time passes out a rumor. Everybody jumps on it, that even when it is refuted, we don't go back again. We just continue. Okay. Mr. Fayemi, you have made a lot of points, and I'm not here.
No, I still have the second one. Please, can I make the second one?
Okay.
The second one is on the ravaging issue of fuel scarcities that has been affecting the nation. Like I said, Mr. President himself is the coordinating minister of that ministry. And people have also saying it that, okay, we have some sabotage in place. People who are sabotaging the effort of government. And the question I kept asking them is this: how can some people sabotage government? Are they powerful than the president himself? If they are saying we have enough fuel in circulation, I said I was in Abuja in October last year. Since October last year, I've been seeing people selling fuel beside the road in Abuja, and nobody has ever been apprehended. Nobody has ever been rebooked for doing anything illegal under this government. And again, I said sometimes February last year, we had the issue of some contaminated fuel was also imported to this country. Like we speak today, that contaminated fuel caused some damages in the cars of so many people, affected the generator of the people, and so many businesses were also affected by that. As we speak now, we are yet to know that an head has been, has rolled because of that inadequacy, that somebody has been responsible for that national disaster. So it appears that most times when issues happen, anything goes free under this government. Anything can happen. The ASU strike can last for more than a year. Nobody cares. The doctor can decide to go to their houses. Nobody cares. People are beginning to jump out. Nobody puts, look in that direction. What I'm just beginning to say is, in all, the president cannot be totally exonerated, but it appears that the president is also disconnected with the happenings of the nation. And if he says he's connected to the happening, maybe he decided to always put his face away from when things affect Nigerians, which to me, as somebody like me, I find it, something unheard of. I find it highly disappointing, and I find it highly disheartening. That is just my comment, man.
Yeah. Do you want me to respond? Most of the things he said, I had responded when he was off. Unfortunately.
Yes, I want you to, man. Yes, ma'am.
Yeah. Because I had responded. And I'm sorry, I cannot start holding brief for the president or holding brief for anybody. I don't work for government. I'm not paid by government. I'm just a Nigerian that understands what governance is, and I know what is expected. Our president has a style that is different from some other presidents we have been seeing. The sad thing about it is that it is a style Nigerians are not used to. Nigerians want a president that is in their face, always talking, always doing this. But this president is not like that. History always judges him correct in the long run. And I'll give you a few examples. I'm blocking the border. Nobody must import rice. There was a lot of noise, abuse. This CBN, the president called him, and Emefiele came up with this anchor borrowers program, and we started producing rice. Now we're the largest producers of rice in Africa, and big companies, Mangal, Dangote, Bua, all of them have come into rice. Lagos State has a rice. Rice has made a lot of people into millionaires. a lot of people have got a lot of jobs becoming rice farmers. The president is now vindicated for having set that policy that we all criticized, up to the point that everybody started saying Nigerian rice is bad. Have you heard them talking about Nigerian rice is bad? Now, everybody is eating it. It's being made into fried rice and the rest of it. And that policy has come to stay, despite all our noise and our anger and everything. The president also said, when he talked, he said the architecture of the local government needs to be restored because all the security problems we have is coming from the disturbance of the architecture that was in place a long time ago. He tells the governor, go back and set up your local security systems back. You collect funds for security. Go back and sort these things out so that when a new person, a visitor comes into your midst, your community security officer will report. When people are gathering, we will do it. If it is not that some state feed columnists are part of the problems of the security, they would have heeded this call and gone back. Now, the governors are on their own presidents of their state. The president can't force them to do certain things that the Constitution has put in their hands to do. So no matter what he says, if they don't buy into it, nobody can say it. Now, when it comes to petrol, I think I mentioned this last week, and I say that Elede, let me speak Yoruba, Elede madoyo, igbelo mapo. The problem with our petrol is we Nigerians refuse to accept what has been glaring us in the face, which is that subsidy is unsustainable. We complain on one hand that the government is not putting money into the system, the government is not doing this, not realizing that the government is funding us. Money for development is being used to fund us. Now, and I'm going to explain subsidy as I now understand it in a simple form. I have a car. My husband has a car. We buy, let's say we buy like about 100, just for easy arithmetic, we buy 100 liters of petrol per week. So between the two of us, we buy 400 liters of petrol. Petrol comes down when NNPC brings it at 180 or 190 naira. We were insisting they should continue to sell it to us at 165. So for every liter, the government is paying me and you in our homes that extra. That is what subsidy means. So government is part of our financial bank, our loan. He gives us overdraft for us to go around doing our businesses. We are, and it's the poor people don't understand subsidy. They don't understand that subsidy on the poor is not something so much more of the burden. How many of the poor people have cars? How many of them drive? They are all moved in the what we call mass transit system. So theirs is reduced. It is you and I, all of us, some of us with 4 cars. So government is subsidizing the rich. But when the government says, look, I'm tired, this father that you said is not sympathetic, doesn't talk to the people. This father looks and says, I cannot remove this thing because of these people. How can I do it? So he doesn't allow NNPC. Now that NNPC has been made into a private limited liability company with its own board, the government can no longer dictate to them what they can do. So NNPC is just testing you and telling you, get used to this system. This subsidy is over. By the time any new president comes in, the subsidy regime is going, because right now we are spending more money on subsidy than we can ever need for development. All the development projects we need to do that we are going to loan money for, if we remove subsidy, we won't be able to have more finance. So we ourselves are the ones killing our economy because we are insisting we want to buy petrol at a price that is unsustainable. And even when we tell you that ordinary Ghana petrol is 600 per litre, they will say, do they produce petrol? Even in Saudi Arabia, where they produce petrol is higher than what Nigerians are getting, and they produce there. America, we all know. We pretend like these things, we don't know it. So what we are seeing is that NNPC is saying to government, give me all my money first if you want me to supply you. Don't impoverish my company. I can't be the, before, when government wasn't doing subsidy, government was doing, NNPC was doing under recovery. That's what, subsidy of the olden days. People will say, Shebi, he said he was removing subsidy. It's different. In the olden days, the government of those times were allowing private people to go and bring in the oil, the petrol. Those private companies who handle all those people will now come and say they imported on behalf of Nigeria government. And they will now tell NNPC that we brought in 1 million liters. When NNPC will go there, there will be some sort of collusion, and NNPC will agree that they brought 1 million. Meanwhile, maybe it is 500 million they brought. So government was paying for what they didn't even get, and they were paying extra. So that was subsidy. And then when Baba came, after a while, Baba did not, NNPC stopped them from importing. NNPC started to import alone. So cut out the fraud. And if you don't believe me, remember there were a lot of oil people that were jailed because they had lied that this is the liters they brought in, and it turned out to be false. Now, when you now have a situation like that, NNPC started to import, and NNPC was now giving it to these people in tank farms to be the ones helping them to distribute and paying them just a token on it. Up until the point, you remember NNPC said there are going to be a price. They explained the pricing for us, that when this is the price of bringing it, they will add a bit on it. It has now come to the stage where our pricing now is costing NNPC under recovery. And NNPC, now that it is a private company, wants to increase and make it into market price. And we are fighting it. So fuel scarcity will not disappear. I'm sorry, I am an analyst. That's what I know. I analyze. Fuel scarcity will not disappear until we are ready to accept the proper pricing. Because it's a question of, I can know what to do to safeguard my expenditure. But I can't continue. If I know that I can't afford 2 cars in a house, I will cut it and start going. I trek to my office sometimes, not because I don't have money. It's exercise, and it's close to my home. At least it's just like about 2 kilometers to go 2 kilometers. So sometimes I walk. A lot of us,
is that, okay, yeah, going straight towards the
don't reveal where I live around on public. I have a lot of enemies.
Sorry.
Okay, so you see, so everybody can now make up their mind what they want to do. But that's why I said that proverb, and that is part of Igbe.
Can you actually translate that? Can you tell us the meaning and the context for that?
Oh, it means that, the pigs are very, very noisy, especially when you are trying to move them from somewhere and taking them where. They are not very cooperative animals. They are not like sheep. Yeah. Sheep will just go bare and sleep there and you can move them. But not pigs. Pigs are going to make a whole lot of noise. So the Yoruba adage says that the pigs will actually, this herd of pigs will get to Oyo, which is where you are transporting them. But they are going to make a lot of noise. There's going to be raucous. They will disturb you. So you will not be at peace while the pigs are not at peace. But you will get them there because they have to get there. So that is the problem with Nigeria and the fuel thing. NNPC is telling us that whether we like it or not, we are going to accept subsidy. So by the time they lead us into all this punishment, and we groan and we shout and we scream, after a while we'll all start to say, it's better that we have this petrol, bring it at any price and stop giving us all this wahala. It's as simple as that. You might say the timing, but I have actually been expecting this from time, because I've always known It doesn't make sense. It's not sustainable for Nigeria to be spending all its money feeding Nigerians with petrol. And these Nigerians that don't pay tax at that.
So could this be said to be true? The argument people have made that, you know what, that government is simply, all these things are actually a ruse, and that, you know, this thing is artificial, and the government is trying to blackmail the citizens into accepting that. By the time people have suffered this for a while, they just go like, you know what, how much are you going to be selling the petrol next? How much are you capping it at? 300 naira, 350 naira, we'll take it. Could that be the case? Because it does seem to align with what you're saying. It's
not blackmail. It's a question of reality. It's not a blackmail. They have explained and explained. Everybody, a lot of people have not read the PIB. PIA, that is Petroleum Industry Act. A lot of people have not read it. I've written an expose on it in which I looked at all the laws. Why are you not surprised that the Niger Delta is at peace? Why are you not surprised? Are you not curious as to why a restive Niger Delta is keeping quiet? That is because the Petroleum Industry Act, for the first time in their life, favors them. The Petroleum Industry Act says that all the oil-producing communities should form themselves into community development associations. Register these community development associations. Then, for every single oil company that operates in that community, the Petroleum Industry Act says they must pay those community development association, I think it's 5% of their revenue.
Wow.
Or operating costs. Revenue, not profit.
Revenue,
yes, so that they cannot lie and remove so many things under cost and then pay small and declare profit. It's not profit after tax or profit before. Revenue, their operating costs, everything that goes into their operations, 3% goes to the communities. And the communities also have what they should spend it on and how they should agree on spending it. Now, in a place where it is just one of the warlords that was collecting money before, and in a place where a lot of the oil companies, after they have settled this group, another group will start, and there was so much wahala. These people are now looking at money constantly every year that they will have to use for themselves. They are finally getting money legally. That's why they are keeping quiet. And it's only somebody like PMB who doesn't listen to noise, who calls the people themselves and sits with them to say, we have to solve this problem. That's why the Niger Delta is at peace. Plus the Niger Delta ministries and all those places. But a lot of people don't know this. Now, under that same Petroleum Industry Act, there is the lower stream and upper stream. All of them have their own authorities. And all of them are to drive investment into that low stream, upstream. NNPC itself has so many companies, you know. It's not just one NNPC, it has so many subsidiaries. And all of them want to be profitable. So NNPC, the parent body, cannot be the one that is now bringing them down with this our petrol. So Buhari was hoping that when Dangote refinery comes, it will be available so that if they withdraw the subsidy, and that's what NNPC is trying to do, because Dangote will soon come on stream. So they are giving us a feel of, let us get used to the price that is going to go up a bit, even if Dangote comes. And Nigeria has taken a 25% stake in Dangote, so that Dangote cannot just decide if our petrol is too low, it's going to export all its products. Can you imagine having Dangote here, and Dangote is a private person with no government interest at all, and he decides to export all his products? What do? We have to stop him from doing that. It's his money. So a lot of these things that we talk about, look, I have told you, Mr. Fayemi, I'm not holding brief for Buhari. I like the guy. I have my reasons for liking him. The only reason why I stand by Buhari is that nobody has told me he stole our money. And as far as me, integrity is very big to me. When it comes to the question of somebody, that is all. Until I find that Buhari actually is part of somebody who stole money, I will always support, because he's operating from a position of honesty. He might get it wrong, he gets it wrong, but he's not because he's wicked. And that's where I stand. All right? I told you this is not part of my time.
Just give us 5. In fact, I was going to say that, and you've actually gone beyond what we agreed. And and many people might be wondering. Of course, I'm not at liberty to say. Usually, she puts on a video, but today she's just had to do this because. But this is really close to our heart, and we want to appreciate you. It is because we're not having you back until after the elections, where, in fact, the first week after the elections, we want to have you back because we'll be very keen on your perspective on whatever the outcome. Because we've got a series of elections. Now, I think people will not forgive me if I do let you go without this question of beavers vis-a-vis the election in Osun State, the tribunal ruling, and of course, taking a reading of the appeal of Governor Jackson Nuruddin Adeleke and the PDP. And of course, initially, there were rumors that INEC was not going to be appealing that judgment, but INEC has appealed it. And some of the grounds of that appeal are very interesting. The governor actually claimed that, number one, that the second judge, it was supposed, what we read in the papers was that, you know, there was a majority judgment and a minority opinion, minority judgment, obviously, and that the lead judge of the tribunal with another one, they actually were in agreement. But of course, when Governor Adeleke addressed the press, addressed the media immediately after the judgment, he said, well, to the best of his opinion, there was one judge who ruled against him, there was one who ruled for him, there was one who was neutral. Now, the grounds of appeal were that never has it been seen before where someone who was agreeing with the lead judgment, another judge, would just sign. And that judge is still expected to still read out his or her own part
No, that is wrong.
I just want it to be able, because people are out there who want, you know, all of a sudden people are confused. And if you see the narrations going,
even Adeleke himself is a rabble rouser now. He's confused. Dr. Adeleke no law. When there's a panel,
still the governor of the state has abstained. So, just so that I can...
Where there's a panel in law, where you have an appellate court and there's a panel, the majority judgment, if 3 of them in a panel of 5, that is the judgment that is held. Majority, they don't have to write anything. All they can say, when the judgment is being read, all they have to say is they concur. They concur.
But the argument judge in this case did not say anything all through. That's the argument. I didn't see all the video of the entire reading of the judgment.
And but you have to see the ruling first. You can't just listen to what if the judge didn't say anything and they were reading the judgment in front of him. He concurs now, because if he was not in agreement, he would have written a minority. Everybody, you can have as many minority judgments. If you feel that you are not in agreement with the judgment, you must express. It's the minority judgment that must be written to express why you are not. But once a majority have met together and agree, they will sit together and say, do you agree? Because it's only one person who will read the lead judgment, not all of them. If any one of them wanted to buttress the lead judgment, he might add something. But if he doesn't buttress anything, he agrees with the lead judgment. That is not it's not a big deal at all. There's no arguments in that. There's no legal travesty in that. The main purpose of that judgment, which was read out, is Beavers proved that there was overvoting. And most people, a lot of politicians, that's one of the things that I have done. Anytime a law comes in, I scrutinize the law. The new law, many people did not know. The judge who wrote a dissenting judgment was actually talking about the register. That if people's name are on the register and they voted one way or the other, he did not see that as overvoting, not knowing that the electoral law, the new Electoral Act, had specifically said that it is the number of people that are accredited with the beavers that are entitled to vote. So if the judge who wrote a minority judgment didn't even espouse the law, well, how can you listen to what he says? You know, so in a majority, once a majority concur, that is it. They don't, I don't know what Adeleke is saying. He should go and dance his Valentine and leave us in peace. Okay?
Okay, look, but basically, I mean, still on that, because, I mean, the arguments have actually dovetailed to two things. The judge, the dissenting judge actually said, you know what? The beavers machines themselves, the machines themselves were brought as physical evidences, and that they were examined and the figures taken from them. And they actually gave the figures of the accreditation, you know, but that the majority judgment went to take the figures in terms of interim uploading to the server, which, quote and unquote, for me, I mean, those are the questions people have been asking. Why would there be an interim upload to the server? Why can that be not upload in real time? Because what if someone starts in
today, I think the INEC and Adeleke have appealed, right?
Yes.
They have appealed. So the Supreme Court is the final arbiter. Let them decide. We shouldn't give ourselves all this wahala. The judgment of the Court of Appeal on that beavers was sound. It appears logical. Look, I don't care for Adeleke and I don't care against him. When he was elected, I had a good night's sleep because the people deserve to have whatever governor they want. If they want their dancing governor, please let them dance a lot. I don't give a hoot. APC will move ahead of that. But now that APC has now won back the seat, I think one should examine what the judges said. And I think reading, I haven't seen the real judgment, but reading an excerpt of it, it made legal sense to me. When we go deep into it, we'll find out. But we hear the arguments on appeal, so I'm not quite disturbed. It's not the end. It is when it gets to the end that we know. And people have to be careful. There's a lot, the judges in the Supreme Court came out and said that people have to be careful. A lot of laymen are just abusing the judges anyhow. Much as they can make mistakes, there will always be, you see, the Supreme Court is where we have what we call in law, stare decisis. That is the precedent. So we have to realize that anything the Supreme Court says becomes a precedent for all the other lower courts. They must always honor what the Supreme Court says. So we have to be careful. The Supreme Court warned. It says that over 600 intra-party cases get to them. Over 600 matters between parties that the Supreme Court shouldn't even have to get into. And it says, if you cannot keep your house in order, if you can't solve things that are supposed to be resolved at the party level and you drag yourselves, we are going to decide for you. And one party can never like the decision. So when it comes to people like Lawan, a lot of us were not quite happy at the decision because we thought, oh, Lawan played himself out. But again, you have to look at somebody who knows that he's a placemaker, who now suddenly perhaps wants to profit from what knowledge he knew. So the Supreme Court...
But ma, what offense was the person committing under law, even as a placemaker? Because the law does not have any provision that as a placemaker you must...
see, when you are dealing with your party, when you are dealing... Hold on a second, Tunde. When you are dealing with a party, you have to be careful. Yes, because the party is the one that is supreme. If a party tells you that the election you did at that particular time didn't have, the primaries you didn't have the requisite people who are supposed to be there. It becomes an issue that the Supreme Court will have to deal with. So it is all this, we not obeying. Look at what happened to Adam Oshiomhole now. He was kicked out because people thought he was too overbearing as a stickler for rules and regulations and the rest of it. He was kicked out. And APC, if the president hadn't stepped in at that particular time, Mr. Fayemi is right that the problem spread up for a long while before the president steps in. But if the president hadn't stepped in at that time, all these presidential candidates that we are now talking about, APC might have ended up not even having a lot of people to field because of that intra-party problem. People in our party were going around fighting themselves. Interim party officials turned their time into like almost 1 year when they were given a short period. So a lot of things. And then the president that is not supposed to be in, that's why you have a party chairman, is dragged in from his own duties to come and be interfering in party when there's a party chairman and there's a constitution of the party. So a lot of indiscipline. We ourselves have to just look at ourselves more. All right. On that note, I'm done.
Thank you so much, Ma. There are loads of questions to ask you, but I must respect our agreement. You, like I said, you've gone past everything we agreed. I want to appreciate you on behalf of the platform for sorry, let me say Jenny always does this, so I don't want to take his job. Say Jen, just quickly do that in 1 minute and then we'll let her go and we continue with the webinar.
Yes, thank you very much, Mr. Convener. Yeah, thank you, sir, Mr. Convener. Yes, on this note, I need to sincerely appreciate Mrs. Awokoya. You know, our consistency and an interest on issues that pertains to national development is legendary. And at every time she comes here, we always learn on our feet, and we try as much as possible to get different perspectives to issue. And one important thing I also need to talk about her is she goes straight to the point. She talks the issues the way the issues are. And on that note, we sincerely want to appreciate you for being consistent on the part of justice, on the part of truth. And we in PLIDE, we appreciate you for being a patriotic person. And we thank you for the love you have for PLIDE. We also thank you for the love you have for our nation. And we wish you a very glorious and a wonderful week ahead. Thank you very much for coming. Thank you.
Thank you very much for having me. And bye-bye to everybody who has participated. Thank you.
We'll see you in March by the grace of God.
Bye-bye, ma. We appreciate you, ma.
Bye-bye, Comrade Ayoli. Bye-bye.
Yes, sir.
So, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to continue because now talking about so many things. And of course, we're expecting Comrade Adedosu to join us very, very soon. Even if it's for just 15 minutes or thereabout, we're still expecting him to join us. He's had to be in church, and he's based in Canada. And in terms of the time zone, this is just about 2:02 or thereabout, you know. So, but having said that, I want to the issues of this election, they're too important to not talk about. And I know all our members, even our leaders, I know all of you have your candidates, you have your perspectives on the elections, you have your ideas, you have your ideals. But of course, looking at it, these candidates, I want us to talk about the preparedness of the parties themselves to govern. In the last few weeks, we've heard things about, about certain people interests working about, against Tinubu within his own party, certain interests working against Atiku in his own party, where there's been that letter that was in the press since all day today about this alleged 2 billion that was given by Obi to some Christian groups, and then there's a Kwankwaso group as well. Kwankwaso and Alhaji Galadima said Kwankwaso has the North locked down. But for the interest of Nigeria, do we think any of these candidates are actually the kind of candidates we actually should be looking for? But I mean, we already have them, whether you answer yes or no, we already have them. Beyond that, what should we be looking for, even as we all prepare to go to the polls? What should we be looking for as we prepare to go to the polls? So I'm going to throw that question. We're going to start with you, Comrade Fayemi. What should we be looking for in these candidates as we look to go to the polls?
Yes, thank you so much, Mr. Convener. Now, from my point, the intricacies that has characterized the campaigns, so many documents coming out. El Rufai advocated that some cabals in the presidency were not supporting Asiwaju and all of that. Those things are what make election nearing process very interesting in a country like ours, which is full of drama and political melodramas. For me, when people, for example, let me explain the PDP drama. Over time, we had the G5 governors who at every point in time were hemmed, and that is being spearheaded by Governor Wike. To me, I said at the time, Wike was abdicating to himself a position of God. He was overflagging and overplugging his relevance and political importance. And as it is, there has been issue. We had in the last week few members in PDP that were suspended in the Ekiti State. People were saying that it was a result of to try as much as possible to spike back on Governor Iyabo Awokoya. That was why his son, his former head of media, and most of others were also suspended from PDP and all of that. So there has been drama. As we have drama in the PDP, we also that could also not be exonerated from APC. At the time, the Asiwaju himself felt this Naira redesigning is primarily to affect him, is to make sure that there's no much money in circulation towards the election period. And the question we kept asking ourselves is this: why, even in the first instance, do we need to have enough money in circulation for election? Ordinarily, we're not running a money-based election. The only thing we need to do are probably logistics for campaign and all of that. And with that too, physical cash don't need to go, don't need to exchange hands for those logistics and some other means to be successfully executed. If not because of the pain and agony that this Naira policy has inflicted on Nigerians, for somebody to have judged that this issue is primarily affecting him because of election, it's a baseless accusation. It's just it's a pointer to say that okay, they have the premonition to get enough money to circulation to have to influence or induce voters in this forthcoming election. And for me, I think that is completely unnecessary. Though his campaign committee and the spokesperson also came out to say, oh, no, that was not what Asiwaju meant. He was not trying to attack the president. All of them belong to the same party. They need to project the same agenda, and their interest is to make sure that Nigeria, gets better and all of that. So, and again, there was a drama that also happened with David Alake when he featured on our live television like 2-3 days ago. They asked him a question on this blah blue comments that Asiwaju made over time. And blatantly, Alake said that balablu, bulu, blabulu that Asiwaju said was doctored, that Asiwaju never said it. So people are beginning to look at, are these the characters that we want to govern this country? People who will see black and call it red, and who will see blue to call it purple. And if again, I remember the publicity secretary of APC in Lagos State, the person of Adewale, when he was also interviewed like 2 weeks ago, to ask him about, okay, what can you say regarding the issue of the bullion van that entered and got into Asiwaju's house during the election of Buhari in 2019 or thereabouts? Adewale also said that the bullion van missed its road to Asiwaju's house. When people make this kind of comments, it's just making mockery of us in the Committee of Nations. People are beginning to look at, okay, are they taking Nigeria for a fool? How could you say at the time they were justified that, okay, anybody has the right to call bullion ban in as much as you can pay for CIT and all of that? And you are the publicity secretary of APC in Lagos State came out to say that the bullion ban missed the road to Asiwaju's house. Because of election, people with so-called leaders are beginning to, to paint lies, to paint issues black, to paint issues red. And we're not beginning to ask ourselves, are these the characters that we want as leaders? How can we be sure that when these people get into corridor of power, they are not going to be worse? They are not going to be worse than the people we are currently complaining about, because they are beginning to give us pointers, to turn a broad daylight lies, to try to paint issues in their favor and all of that. I want to go to article. For Atiku over time, has been going about his campaign, and somebody said something today, which is a very great pointer. He said, if I listen critically, I was having a conversation with some people online, that if I listen critically to the campaigns of Atiku and Atiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu, the fight against corruption was never prominent in their campaigns. And that is a pointer to say that these guys do not have the local standing. They don't have the moral standing to say we want to fight corruption. Because even if directly their hands were not soiled or dirty in corruption, they have colleagues and allies who have had one or two issues in corruption cases with the ICPC or EFCC in the past, or pending cases that is still lingering. We had some cases that is currently lingering about, FFK, when he went to Rivers State to undertake the repair of the airport in Rivers and all of that. So people are beginning to dig out the past information and even the past history that were not privy to us, all because of politics. So for me, I think politics has had interesting venture in a time like this in a nation, where even the past, that you never thought people could be privy to, are beginning to come out in the open. But what we expect, like you said, Mr. Convener, like I said, over time, either Atiku, either Asiwaju, and Obi have not seen a saint in all of them. What I only foresee that I want for our country is a president that will unfortunately this top guy. But the competence is giving us the required direction, and the competence is putting our nation on the foot that's going to work. For me, I have no confidence in the three of them, but it's open to Nigerians, it's open to the populace to decide who they want as their president. But my prayer is the best should happen to Nigeria. Citizens should go out there on the 25th of this month and let somebody that they see and they consider fit to be able to give a little touch of change, a little touch of renewed hope. Not only the hope, renewed hope that Atiwaju is using as a slogan, but we want a sincere and a determined renewed hope that is going to, put things in a better perspective in a little while, until and put us in the foot of getting it right as a nation. That is just my perspective so far. Thank you, sir.
Thank you so much, by that, Fayemi. I really, really appreciate your perspective. Thank you so much for not holding back there. You're appreciated. Let's take a few other. I believe we've got Bumi Shokumbi. We had a few people who dropped off. I think I saw Peter, PLIDE Peter, and some others. And of course, we've got Engineer Aliu here tonight. Let's go with Bumi. I don't know if Bumi wants to add something to this conversation. Okay, I'll just go with, okay. Oh,
good evening, sir.
Good evening. Good evening. Thank you so much for joining us. Thank you.
You're welcome, sir. Actually, I'm here to listen and to learn, but I really don't see. Let me just talk in a layman's language because I'm not a politics person. But I feel both Atiku, Tinubu, and Peter Obi, they are all the same thing. I feel they are same. They are not capable of. They are all corrupt. That's just my own. It's just like a party, somebody leaving PDP to APC, from APC to Labour Party, interwoven. I don't know. I feel they are just the same thing. They are just the same human being. I don't think for Tinubu has the money already. I really don't know what he's looking for. I feel he needs power. He needs more power. Atiku too has the money already. I don't know what he's looking for. And Peter Obi, I read something about him when he was the governor of Anambra State, I think, that he was owing the workers salary for, I think they went on strike because of salary for a year and 13 months, a year and 1 month, I think. So I think I read something like that today. I'm not sure. I only saw it on all this social media stuff. So how can somebody like that? I don't know. May God help Nigeria.
Thank you so much, PLIDE Awokoya. Thank you so much. Thank you. I always like it when someone says, I don't really have anything to talk about. I'm just listening. And then goes up, okay, maybe I should. And then the person actually, so that actually, irrespective of the way they've come across, they actually have something to say. Thank you so much for that. Let's take PLIDE Lukman. Let's have a perspective for PLIDE Lukman. And then we'll take
Yeah. Good evening.
Thank you so much. Yeah, go on.
Everybody. I am actually on the coming election. If we look at the way things are in this election, you discover that this is the first election in Nigeria history where the major candidates are basically depending on the masses vote to win. Before, yes, they can campaign, they can do as if they needed the masses, but they always have their way. But this time around, they are begging the masses to vote for them to win this election, all because of beavers. So it's a plus to us on that note. And then I have the belief that whoever that eventually win this election will not want to misbehave.
Okay, go on. Oh, I think we lost that PLIDE Lukman there. So very, very quickly, we just go. Engineer.
To some extent, but due to the fact that.
Yeah, go on. I thought we lost you there because we couldn't hear you for a second.
They passed through this process in a hard way.
Okay. Very, very quickly, I'm just going to call on Engineer Liu. Engineer Liu.
Sorry, sir.
Oh, okay. Go on. Your
the network was bad.
Yeah, go on. Conclude what you're saying. Yeah, go on.
Hello.
We can go on.
Hello.
Yeah, we can hear you. Go.
Hello.
We can go on.
Hello.
We can hear you. Apply that.
Yeah. Okay. I'm talking about Tinubu complaint about. We can't deny my powerful segment just talk about now. We can't deny the fact. And even if we are denying it, one way or the other, we all knew that in the history of Nigeria, weeks or months to election, when election is more near, such issues like this don't come up. Because this is the period where whoever that is in power will do everything possible to please the citizens so that they can have their support and vote. But for issues like this to be coming up a month or two to the election, definitely something is going on underground. So for him to come out and complain, yes, we might think it will affect him. That's why he's talking. But the fact is, people are feeling the pain more, even more than the candidate themselves. The masses are feeling it more than the candidates. And we cannot deny the fact that somebody is actually working in that also against his candidacy. Starting from the primary election, we all know, we are all aware of what took place during the primary till date. So for any of us to now come out and say it was because of this, no. I won't agree with that. But this coming election, I believe there will be some changes in terms of governance in Nigeria. Whoever that wins will do better than Buhari. That's just my own belief in this coming election, due to the issues coming up here and there, and the beaver introduction. So Nigeria will move forward and we'll get it right. I've said it before that if we want to get it right in Nigeria, we the masses, we have to take the power, we have to take the country by ourselves, but we are not ready now. So we don't have choice to follow, to do away with what we have for now. That is just my belief. But Nigeria, we shall be great again. I'm very sure of that. Thank you, sir.
Thank you so much, PLIDE and Lukman. Thank you for your perspective. I mean, there's so many things to talk about here. I mean, it's that sort of season where different views, different perspectives on different things are actually, one has to be more open-minded, more accommodating, because so many things are happening. And like you mentioned, a lot of these things are unprecedented. They've never happened before. And, and of course, I do totally concur with that, because you know what? For example, my mother is not a politician, and she's feeling the bite of the Naira scarcity as well. I had a friend who contacted me a few days ago and said to me, look, friend, I've got just 1,900 Naira in my account. And I went to the POS agent to try to withdraw 1,500 out of the 1,900. And this POS agent said, well, I'm going to charge you 500 to withdraw 1,500. And I just said, you know what, the POS should not worry. The POS agent should not worry anymore. These things are really biting very hard, very, very hard. And it's the masses that are actually suffering it. Imagine you have an aged mother whose driver goes to the filling station. They refuse to. There's no cash to send with your driver to go and get fuel. And then when they get there, the filling station people would not accept any e-payment. They're not accepting card payment, any payment whatsoever other than cash. So you just know that there is serious trouble. Most places you go to, people are not even so you can't. It's almost like like you're already getting ready for the mark of the Antichrist. The 666, like you cannot buy, you cannot sell except with a particular number. It's almost like it's there, because I mean it is really, really difficult. Thank you so much for that perspective. Let's quickly give a few minutes to Engineer Aliu and then we'll call it a night. We're almost out of time. Engineer Aliu, let's hear from you.
Good evening, everybody.
Good evening.
I'm sorry for joining late.
That's fine.
I was fascinated with the title of today's discussion. It's about getting our own Nigerian dream. While I listened to the secretary briefly before he closed his speech, I had to put down one or two things. One thing that is sure is that the present government will need to be changed. I must confess, if we are looking for Nigeria of our dream, this present party cannot give it to us. I'm not biased. I've registered with this party before now. I registered as a member. I voted for this present president because I thought he had something in him that he wanted to do. The last time he was a military head of state, I think he was given a year. So when he came up again, I was thinking in my mind that this man has something in his that he's going to do. Let us give him a chance. For the past 15 years or thereabouts, let's say 12 years, I've been voting for this man until he won. All those previous ones, they have never voted for Jonathan. I have dined together with Jonathan. I have dined together with him, but I never voted for him. But I say this man, he has something that God is asking him to do. But it's clear and clear to me now that he has nothing to offer Nigeria. Recently, when he was talking, he said he was tired. When he was in a casino, I said, he wanted to go, by all means. Now, it is obvious to us now that it is not a candidate that will make Nigeria to be good. Already, we've always been saying it. We have problems with our constitution. They need to devolve powers to the government, local government, and all this stuff. So they need to what would I call it? These norms that we've been talking about. What do they call it? Restructuring. We need to go back to the old constitution that was giving power to the region. If we fail to go back to that kind of constitution, we are still fooling ourselves. For us to get our own Nigeria of our dream, there is need for accountability. We need to call our leaders. We need to be able to query them. Look at this one that is a CBN this thing. What he's doing is not of good faith. He wants to target some people, and it's making the whole country to be suffering. We have EFCC that run after those people that are money bags. You shouldn't make people to die. Just yesterday, I nearly slept at Oshodi. If not for somebody's intervention that gave me, what do you call it? This is a cowrie card. The one I had, there was no money. Now I had just 200 naira with me. The guy said, okay, load it with 200. I went to know those people. I was believing that they would do e-payment, I can do transfer. They said no, they needed cash. So this one I said I should go and top it up with the 200 I had. Eventually, I used the last 200. What happened before that time? 2,000 naira. These POS people, they wanted to collect 400 naira from me. I said I needed to. He said I cannot get more than 2,000, but she will be charging me 400 naira. I thought I was in Benin Republic. Am I sure I was in Nigeria? I wandered around. I had to go back to that lady. You know what she did? When I go back to her, she said, cash has finished. So that dawned on me that I had no option than to sleep over there until I got a good Samaritan that helped me. That was how I was able to leave, and I got to close to my place. I went to go and collect money from another set of POS, collecting 5,000. I think that one collected maybe 500 naira. That's the cheapest I was able to have, 500. And that 500, I think I've finished the whole thing now. Between today and yesterday. Now I've been thinking on how to get cash again. In my own country, so we need to call them, they need to be accountable to us. So we need to devolve a process whereby you call them to order. We are the one that voted you. You are our own, what do you call it? You are serving us. We are not serving you. So we need to do that. I don't know. Organizations like PLIDE is in place. We can be doing that, time to time to call them to order. When you go open the Facebook, you will see PLIDE and the rest. So we need to look at other ways whereby we could be heard. Maybe as time goes on, you remember during Patito's gang, I know Convener was also was one of the gang members of Patito's that time. He was able to sponsor his program. If we may need to gather funds, get sponsors, we put this kind of programs online. I mean, on the screen, and then we'll start hearing it. More people will, we call them to order. We are the one that put them there. So there's no need to fear anybody. We are not babes here. This is our own country. So the other thing I noted here is this present government. Do you know that they denied all the promises they said they promised during that time? All the campaign promises. Each of them, they called Fashola recently that you said if you cannot deliver power, they should do this and that. Fashola said he didn't say so. He's denying now. You see that kind of denial. I remember they are saying maybe 1 million job or 5 million job per year and all this. We've not seen any of those things. It's poverty everywhere. And they are denying. They call the president. He said he didn't promise, it was a party. They talk about what other thing they talk about then? They talk about national conference or something like that. They talk about restructuring. Up till now, they just put the whole thing aside. They have forgotten that it is what the Nigerian masses want that they should do. They are doing what they have. So we need to call them to order, because these people, they are just looking for power, and then to put in to actualize their own personal ambitions. So we elites need to understand the polity, our present polity. I must confess to you, PLIDE is one of such organizations that is being put up to be able to have a kind of a to beam the searchlight on various aspects of the Nigerian nation. And as we continue doing this, you see that we will have succeeded in solving several problems in Nigeria. There are problems in this country. One of the problems we have is that an average Nigerian does not know what Nigeria carries. They don't even know the economy of Nigeria. Recently, I think I've said something like that on this platform. Do you know that most of our tailors, they sleep in their shops? Meanwhile, all those Chinese that could not even speak English, they are bringing a second.
Like that, engineer
to Nigeria, and they are selling as a group. Oh, hello.
Okay, go on. We can hear you now. Go on.
We need to ensure that we enlighten the masses on what is here. Most don't know what we have in Nigeria. Know what we have in Nigeria. They don't. We need to look at the economy, teach people, liberate them in various ways. This one I was telling you, I just went through Super and I saw big container. You know those double container? They are bringing out clothes. They are wrapping it in nylon. I shouted. The person that was by my side, I said, what is wrong with this man? I said, how will our tailors make money? When somebody from China is bringing you clothes to Nigeria, and that person that is bringing it may not have even stepped the shores of Nigeria. Meanwhile, our own Nigeria, what they want to do, they want to travel out. Even somebody that is not educated wants to travel out. You now wonder what are they going to do where they are going, as if they're not going to walk over there. Life is not the best. So, if we want Nigeria of our dream, as an organization, we need to look at the how would I put it? Is it micro? Is it micro? Look at the macro economy. We need to enlighten our people. Gone are the days that one useless party will come and start giving them money in the market, as if it is the money that they will use to build their businesses. You get what I'm saying now? So we have a lot to do. If Nigeria of our dream is to come to reality, as an organization, I have signed up to this organization, whatever it will take to take Nigeria away from this Shiloh. I'm ready to do it. Why? Because I am an actor in the saga called Nigeria. All those people who are making mention, I don't want to make it because they are born into Nigeria. I'm also born into Nigeria. So we have equal stake. Because anybody, anybody, this Nigeria belongs to all of us. I tell somebody, I say my money is in every sphere of the economy because I am here, I am called out to solve problems for so many people. So as an organization, we need to look into all these things. Let's leave the party aside. We have a lot of work to do. All these people that are not educated, then we have people that are educated. All of them, they are in the academics, doing nothing, and they will hold them salary. We need to call them out. Whatever they have, let them push it out. We'll push it out as information to liberate our people. If the government fails, people should not fail now. If they have been, how do I put it? If they have been, their own portion is to come and steal. By the time the masses is empowered, we will snatch the economy away from them, and they will become onlookers. And that's exactly what is happening, like the revolution, where everybody is following Peter Obi because they are tired. I will be a fool to vote this present party with the suffer I've gone through in the last 2 weeks. Just last week, I went to buy fuel. Okay, 8K. I gave them my card. They debited me. I couldn't buy the fuel again. You know what I told them? I said, until they return my money, I'll come back and buy fuel. And of course, I don't know to go out with my vehicle. Till now, they have not returned the money. In my own country, this is my country. I am an actor. So it's left to all of us, and I'm imploring PLIDE. You should not relent. This country is ours. We will make this country to be better. As time goes on, when we metamorphose into party, you will see what is going to come up. We are not running anywhere. In fact, I'm not interested in looking at my Nigerian passport. I'm not ready to travel to anywhere as I am. This Nigeria, I'm going to bring out gold out of it. And that is the spirit I have. Whatever it will take me to become whom I need to be and to push so many people along with me, I'm ready to do it. Nigeria is our own. It does not belong to party. It does not belong to anybody that we are calling their name. We have equal stake, and we'll take this country to El Dorado. Thank you.
Wow, that was really, In fact, you've just given a Martin Luther kind of speech. You've actually given a very rousing speech. Thank you so much. And you've made quite a lot of very valid and very salient points. The only thing I just want to, I'm not adding anything because you've actually put all your points together. The only thing I just want to say here is, a lot of times there are things we blame government for as well, but are we not the enemies of ourselves? For example, the POS person who has taken this opportunity to start extorting you and I, exploiting you and I, and how can someone be asking for 2,000 naira just to pay you 5,000? So that means effectively you're taking 3,000. Someone is taking 40% of what it is criminal. And we heard of certain banks nowadays that the ATMs are only dispensing 2,000 naira, and each time you take 2,000 naira out, they charge you ATM usage fee. It's disgusting. This is not government, my friends. This is not government. This is you and I. There is this flyer, this funny flyer has been passed around, says, this time too shall surely pass. The fuel attendants and the POS agents who are exploiting people, they should also remember face mask and sanitizers. Those people as well. Those who were retailing them, they actually cashed in real bad. They exploited and they extorted. And now you have fuel attendants. You go there, they refuse to take POS from you because they need that cash for them to be. When they are buying fuel for the NNPC depot, are they going to pay cash? NNPC will not take cash from them. So you wonder why they're accepting this cash, because of their criminality as well. Because a lot of the criminalities they perform there, they're off balance sheets. So they sell fuel there to people, and there's just so much criminality going around. My brothers and my sisters, my friends, our colleagues, those who are watching us, a lot of it is down to us. We are our own enemies, So, and of course, most of the bankers out there, they're just victims. They're just unfortunate victims. For example, you're someone who is in operations, who is just an operations officer. What impact, what influence can he or she possibly have on if cash is loaded in the ATM or not, and what withdrawal limit is set when they do that, or because you don't even have access to the vaults, or maybe you're just an FT officer, or you're a credit and marketing officer. What influence do you really have? But yeah, when people look at you, they call all of you the criminals. But then, because there's a core, bad eggs in the system. There are people there are bankers that are actually exploiting this system. I was saying it to someone yesterday. I said, Nigerians are angry because they're seeing parties, events, club events, and people, spraying these new Naira notes. Those who are spraying them cannot have gotten them from the central bank, because the central bank is not an end user bank. You cannot go to the central bank and say, I want to come and withdraw cash. You've got to go to your commercial bank, your community bank, your microfinance bank to go and withdraw your money. So, and people are seeing these monies out there. People are angry, and it's because of the very few bad eggs in the banking system. Some of these bad eggs, they have no links at all to government. So we are our number one enemy, So, unfortunately, you cannot go and bring someone from abroad to come and be your president. It is still so. When I say someone from abroad, you cannot go and bring a citizen of another country to come and be your own president. So it is still one of us. And if we're already behaving if some people are behaving like this, but the good thing is the majority of Nigerians are actually genuine, people who are hardworking, who are very respectful of their labor, who are happy to labor and to just get something, to just feed their families and live a life. But you have some bad eggs. I actually believe that rather than blaming the government, we should be looking inwards and be exposing these bad eggs amongst us. Otherwise, you and I will keep suffering the shame, because all of us names, they call all of us, whereas only a few people are perpetrating this evil. May God help us. Mr. Sejen, please close the webinar for us. I just want to appreciate everybody. Sorry today is the first time we'll be overrunning in about 6 months. It's just because we had to have Mrs. Awokoya, and then also because I had to give each and every one of the space to express your views as well after that. So, Mrs. Again, we hand over to you to close the webinar for us.
Thank you, Mr. Convener, for your consistency and for your hard work in betting a better Nigeria. And I'm sure the Nigeria of our dream will definitely come to reality. And February 25 is another day for us to get it right. And I pray that the forthcoming elections, may Nigeria win. That is just my prayer for Nigeria. So I want to sincerely appreciate our members who joined us in this session this evening, and for our passion and interest in making sure that Nigeria get back on our footing. I know that in due time, we will get it right, and Nigeria will definitely be better. It's just a matter of time. The back eggs will be chased away from governance, and I know in due time, the good ones who have the genuine love of our nation will come into leadership positions. So I want to sincerely appreciate and thank everybody once again, and I wish you all a wonderful and a great week ahead. Thank you. God bless you all.